Hi there, this is Catherine with Enfolded Heart Music. Today I'd like to offer a couple of suggestions, just some tips, suggestions about getting started with the lyre. I know there are other videos out there that do a few of these things, but a little bit less than the other instruments that I work with, predominantly the whistle and the piano. And so I will probably link a few, include a few links maybe on the community tab, maybe in the bottom of this description, I'm not quite sure yet, for those other instruments. Simply because if the video is already out there, there's no reason for me to make another one. And if they're helpful for you, then you might as well use that. These folks worked hard to put those together, and so there's no reason for me to kind of duplicate that. But it does seem like for the lyre, there's a little bit of a lack of more tutorials or, how do you actually play this instrument? And though my knowledge is extremely, extremely limited, I want to say that right off the bat. What I can do is speak from my experience both as a pianist, and that's the instrument that I've received some formal training in, and then me picking up the lyre and just some things that I've learned along the ways. So that's what my hope is to share with you in this video. I'm hoping I'm not going to make it excessively long, but I don't want to rush through it. And I think there's some helpful tips for those of you who are really wanting to work with the lyre. I am going to also make a walkthrough for at least, I'm going to just start with one, with the song Whispers of Beauty. So you can look forward to that in maybe the next week or two, I'm not totally sure. And then we'll go from there. But that I am going to do as well. But I thought this would be a nice foundational video in addition to the one that I've already made. If you haven't seen it, answers questions about this little strap that I have on the back, and also about some height with the seating and a little bit of the historical background of the lyre. So if any of those are of interest to you, if you have any questions about that, I'll put a link in this description. You can take a look at that. I won't be covering that again because I've already talked about that elsewhere. As a little bit of an aside, because this is something that just developed, if you are someone who does not live in the United States and you have tried to access either sheet music or music albums from the website, but have, there's been an error that's popped up that says you can't because you're not in the United States. First of all, I'm sorry. I thought that was resolved quite a long time ago, but thankfully there's some folks who just recently brought that to my attention. So I was able to fix that. So if you tried and you thought, well, shucks, I can't get this information, or I can't get this music, you should be able to do that now. And then broadly speaking, if you ever can't access something, or there's kind of a strange thing going on with the shop, or if you download something and you're not sure how to open it up, feel free, please just send me an email. I would really hate for a technological barrier to prevent you from being able to access something you've already purchased, or from receiving what you'd like to receive from that. It's also true that, like with this instance, I don't know unless someone tells me, because I can't troubleshoot. I can't try everything and then I can't troubleshoot from there. So it's also a help for me as well as for you. So just as an aside, I'll put my email again in the description. Send me an email with any questions or comments. It's really quite open for you. I do check that regularly. And certainly if you have any trouble getting access to things that you think you should be able to get access to. Okay, so main strokes in this video, I'm going to talk about, I'm going to talk about my particular lyre. I get a lot of questions about how to pick a lyre, what lyre do you use, etc. I'm going to talk about the lyre in general, and then a few suggestions in regards to some practicals of working with it, and also some interior dispositions and attitudes when you're learning anything new, really. But I'll focus particularly on the lyre and on music. Again, as a little bit of a disclaimer, I have had no formal training in the lyre, actually, or the whistle, only in piano when I was younger, K through 12. Was taught by a local woman in my community. And so that's where my theory, where my, two-hand coordination comes from, all of that. And so if you see something from someone who, was formally trained in the lyre, something that's different than what you see here, I would totally encourage you to do that. Now, there's nothing that I'm going to tell you that I either know certainly that I know contradicts. I would not share that with you, nor would I try and do that myself. And a lot of this is going to be pretty broad. So what I'm not going to do in this video is talk about different techniques in regards to scales or patterns or things like that. The reason for that is because I don't know specifically for the lyre, and that's not how I came to play the lyre, so I can really only speak for my journey, and things that I think would also be universal for other folks as well. Okay, so that's just kind of an overview of what you can expect to receive from this video. So the first part is, the first question I usually get is, what kind of lyre do you play? And I will put in the description a direct link to the lyre and to the company. Now, unfortunately, the company that I bought this lyre from either is not making lyres anymore or is not making them at this time. So what I'm going to include is both the website of the company in general, and then also an Amazon link to this specific lyre. You can't order them from Amazon, but what you can do is you can see the details of, just the specifics of this particular item, and then you can compare it to other items. I have never played another lyre other than this one, and so questions about, well, how does it compare to, this brand or that brand? I can't tell you, because I've never even seen one before. I've never picked one up. I never played it, nothing. This one works quite well for me. It's not a professional level in the sense that, it's, first of all, it's not chromatic, it's diatonic, and other little things that I'll cover in a second. So it's nothing sort of amazingly special, but it does the job, and I just learned to work with what I have. So if you already have a lyre, you should be able to do what you see in the videos on this channel. If you just work with it and really receive what has been given in this instrument. Trying to fight the instrument that you have is not gonna result in very good things. But I haven't felt like I needed to fight the lyre in any way in that respect. Okay, so yeah, it's nothing special. It was price range. It was somewhere between $70 and $90. So I wouldn't recommend getting, the lowest. I don't even know what that was, but I wouldn't get a $40 or a $30 lyre. You're probably going to get something that's going to break. But you also, if my memory serves me right, there was a huge jump from roughly around 100 or a little bit less to like a couple thousand, and that's the professional level that we're talking about. So it's sort of the difference between getting like an upright piano or a keyboard and a baby grand. It's like, okay, to learn the piano, you don't need a baby grand, but you do need a keyboard that's going to work, or you do need an upright piano that's going to work, and that's going to stay in tune and things like that. So again, nothing special. I'll put those links in the description. The only downside really that I have experienced from this particular lyre is the tuning changes pretty much between every play session that I have. Now, of course, that varies, so that's, I may have a week between when I play, or it may be, a day or so later. What's good is that once it's in tune, it stays in tune. And a lot of the fluctuation is also due to temperature. The house that I'm in doesn't have a super steady temperature, and so that's going to influence it, and that I would just naturally expect. So that's one downside. Suggestions if you're buying a lyre, two things, really the only two things that I looked at and that I would also share as a suggestion. One is rather obvious. Don't buy from a company that's not a music company. If they, sometimes you look at these companies and it's like they sell, everything from tennis shoes to, car seats to lyres to, baseball bats. It's like, okay, well, you don't specialize in anything. And so you're probably not going to get very good quality in what you're getting. I would pick a company that they don't have to just make lyres. That's probably not something you're going to find unless they're really expensive. But someone who maybe makes guitars and violins and just other instruments that have some similarity to the lyre, because that's their craft, right? They're going to be familiar with that. So that's one suggestion. The only other suggestion I would give is in regards to the structure. There's definitely some lyres that I've seen where they don't have, for the sound box, they don't actually have a box. They just have the back. So there's just kind of this dip in the back of the lyre. Now, again, I've never played that, but just knowing the structure of this instrument and just how sound works, long story short, is the vibrations after you pluck the string, and it's going to go down into basically the bridge, right? The strings touch the bridge, and through the bridge, those vibrations are communicated to the sound box. And they're going to echo inside of the box before you hear them. And so if it doesn't have a space for those sound waves to bounce around in, you're going to have a different sound. My assumption would be that it's going to be quieter, it's going to be a less full sound, it may be a less muffled sound, but that also may mean it's going to be pingier, where it's just kind of like ping, 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 which was definitely not something I was looking for. So again, the disclaimer that I've never played one of those before, but you also look at other instruments, again, like guitars, violins, those have the same structure, broadly speaking, as the lyre, and they all have an actual box for their sound box. So that's something that I would lean towards and recommend. In regards to number of strings, just depends on what you want. And what you're looking for. If you want to be able to play with two hands, I would recommend at least 16 strings. I think it goes up to 19. I'm not sure if I've seen something bigger than that. And with 16 strings, you're going to have 2 full octaves plus 1. So for this 16 string one, it starts at G, ends with G up here, that's 1 octave, and then you have G to G up here, and then your little A, that's a nice little kind of add-on. So that's nice. You can have, each hand has its own octave. You're not kind of tripping over your fingers getting in each other's way. And it gives you a nice space to play within the octaves, even if you're just using one hand, to go a little bit above, a little bit below, and that adds, that allows for some nice melodies. But that's really a personal preference of how many strings that you want and what you're wanting to do with it. But I'm using 16 strings, two octaves was important for me. Okay, the kind of second category, second kind of bullet point that I wanted to hit on are encouragement to get familiar with the lyre. And this I touched on a little bit with my lyre strap video. It's really important that when you're first learning something to know what it is that you're working with, what it is that's actually given, both the benefits and also the limitations of that. So for example, the lyre is not a harp. It has a lot of similarities to a harp, but it also has a lot of things that are just not like the harp. So if you're getting a lyre to try and play harp music, you're going to be working in some ways against what this instrument was even designed to do. And that's going to lead to frustration. That's going to lead to wishing that you had a harp and not a lyre. The lyre is actually the ancestor of the guitar and the violin or any of the bowed string instruments. And again, this is a little bit of a repetition, but that is because rather than the strings going directly into the instrument like they do with a harp, they go right into the soundboard, right into the soundboard. You have a bridge. So right into the soundboard is the harp, over the bridge is the lyre, the guitar, the violin, etc. And that simply means that the way that the sound is created is different, and so it calls for you to play it differently. So I would get to know it both on those kind of practical levels, and then also I would really encourage getting to know just a little bit about the history of the lyre, particularly it's been very prevalent in the Greek history, and also, of course, in the Jewish and biblical history. And part of the reason I encourage that is I think it's really helpful and really important in regards to putting ourselves in relation historically to the history of the lyre and those who have played it before us. And so there's a kind of, certainly a kind of humility that I think is born from that. And it also allows us to break out of any tendency to just think about me and how well I'm doing with the lyre. in general, the kind of attitude I would really encourage is one of wonder and play. You toss that in with humility and you get a lot of gratitude, even if you're not very good. Because even if you're just playing, you actually be receiving what's given, and really just sort of be amazed that even just plucking one string, the fact that it makes a beautiful sound, that a simple vibration from one string can echo forth and create this just beautiful, just a beautiful, beautiful sound. So just like you receive the structure of it, you also receive the history of it, recognizing that we're participating in a tradition of the lyre. And when you're actually practicing and playing it, just having our focus out towards the lyre, out towards beauty, rather than kind of inward and just having that perpetual question of how well am I doing. It's a very narrow question. And it's also one that just leads to a lot of frustration, because a lot of times we're never going to be good enough. Even if we're very proficient in something, it never really feels enough. And that's because we're focused inwardly in a way that's really not very helpful or healthy. And so in any art, right, in any art or any thing that you're learning that's new, there is first the receiving of what's given, and there's also the pursuit of beauty, and both of those have nothing to do with me. They're outside of myself, and so there's a beautiful gift that I am being allowed to participate in this, in the history of lyre music, in the history of beauty, in the creation of beautiful music and beautiful sound, even more broadly, just in the history of humanity, and in the gifts that have been given to us. And there's a lot of gratitude that comes from that. It will also allow you, as you play, to really listen to what you're playing. This is something I was going to say to the end, but it works well now. My piano teacher, when I was growing up, she used to say, in short, she would say, your audience knows when you're not listening. They know when you're not paying attention. When you're when you're basically, you just have muscle memory and you're playing the song well, but you're thinking about the math test that you have on Monday. And so she wasn't meaning that you're not thinking about the technique of how to play it, but that your heart and your mind are not participating in singing the song that your fingers are singing. And she, I think she was completely right. It also means that I'm asking my audience to pay attention to the beauty of music that I'm not even paying attention to. So there's a great irony in that. And there's also just a strange kind of rupture that happens with it. So anytime you're practicing or playing, for me, they're very much one and the same. I never just take a time where I'm like, okay, I'm going to practice and then practice something technical. It's always totally wonder-filled. I'm really just curious, how does this sound? If I have this left hand going, let's just play around on these, and then all of a sudden something comes, and it's a beautiful surprise, and I just want to play it again and again, and that again and again gets me better at that particular move, whether it's just a real quick, move between two notes, or whether it's the left hand, getting that left hand to have real, smoothness in there. I'm not thinking about, I want to play it smoothly. I'm thinking about, really nothing. I'm just like, wow, that's beautiful. I want to do that again. I want to do that again. And the more I do it, the better it gets, the more beautiful it gets. And I'm sort of drawn out of myself to pay attention to that beauty. And it's just really full of wonder. I find this especially important when I'm trying to record. I also find it especially difficult when I'm trying to record or when I'm playing in front of other people, because, we get a little bit self-conscious of how do I sound, or I want to play this well for other people. So that can be tough to do. I'm certainly not saying that I do this perfectly, but I do want to speak it as the attitude in which I would really encourage, anyone doing just about anything, but particularly if you're learning a new instrument, and something as beautiful and delicate and simple in regards to instruments as the lyre. I would really encourage an attitude of wonder rather than an attitude of kind of achievement or a striving attitude. You will get better as you continue to play with it. So that's a lot of the interior disposition that I would really encourage. Okay, in regards to the practicals of, how do I sit, and what should my posture be like, or how do I play with both hands? I have a few thoughts on that. It's not sort of all inclusive, but I do have a few thoughts. In regards to posture, this is, again, I've said this before, this is the chair I typically sit in because of the height. Again, you can see that other video. The two things in regards to how you sit I would pay attention to is, one, be relaxed. You don't want to be sitting, in a way that's really rigid. That will come out and it will really prevent you from being able to play. If you play sports, if you sing, if there's other activities that you enjoy doing and you're quite good at it, maybe consider how, if you're really uptight because you're nervous or you're trying really hard, it makes it much harder to do. If you're, you play, baseball or something, and you're trying to swing a bat really hard, you're less focused on A, hitting the ball, and B, you're less smooth in it, and so there's not this cooperation in your body as a whole, and it's actually making you weaker rather than stronger when you're trying to swing that bat. Sort of a sort of strange metaphor, because this has nothing to do with strength, but it does have to do with a kind of cooperation in everything. So you want to be, relaxed when you're doing it. I'll be totally honest, when I first got the lyre, I had no idea how to hold it, and I just felt like every way I held it, it just moved all over the place. I couldn't see what I was doing. I used to sit on the floor with my legs up just so it would stay still. So, if you need to do that at first, who am I to say, no, don't do that. But it'd be awkward if you wanted to play for someone else and you're like, but wait a second, I need to sit on the floor while I while I do this. And also it's just not a great posture in general. So I could, if I really wanted to, play with just my legs simply flat, and in certain ways that probably would be better. But I do tend to play either with my legs crossed or kind of like this, just because it creates a nice space for it to sit in. So being relaxed, but you don't want to be so relaxed that you have bad posture in other ways. So if I'm so relaxed, or if I'm trying to be sort of so comfortable that I end up leaning forward a lot, or if I'm holding either of my wrists real stretched, real bent like this, if you're trying to play, you'll notice all the tension is just here in the hand. You're not taking advantage of your whole forearm, which is really where you want that strength and that agility to come from. So making sure that your whole arm is straight. Again, you don't need to be real rigid about it. It doesn't need to be perfect. But just a general, if you're in a position and you notice, oh wait, I'm kind of plucking at a weird angle this way, or I'm kind of crouched like this, anything that makes I'm exaggerating, but anything that makes the wrist go like this is generally not something that I would recommend. I think you're going to end up straining your hand, and also it's going to limit how fluid you can be in your movement on the lyre. I will say I do feel like my left hand is rather restricted. I don't know a better way to do that, but I tend to stay. I mean, it's not a huge ballpark, right? I mean, we only have one octave that I really play the left hand, and sometimes it comes up to this A, but there's not a whole lot of movement. The left hand really I just use as a kind of background. Kind of bass that I have, so that it can sort of support the right hand in the melody as that sings. But I do feel a little bit cramped, but and at times I'll notice, wow, my hand is kind of hurting, or my fingers kind of hurting, and I'll notice that I'm more like this than I should be. And again, I'm not getting this from any particular thing, except that's not the way that our body works. And so to make your body work in a way that it wasn't designed to is going to lead to not good things, both in your music and for your body itself. Okay, so to be relaxed, but also be aware you're not doing something that is going to put strain over time, even just in your single practice sessions. And I honestly, I wouldn't even call them practice sessions. I call them play sessions. Because again, I would really encourage that spirit of wonder. And this is something I actually forgot to mention, but I would, so okay, you get relaxed. Sorry, you get relaxed, and not being awkward. And then in your actual practice time, or the time that you're playing with the instrument, I would totally recommend just playing around on it, seeing what the notes sound like when you try them together. Really explore it. Get to know, what does it do? What does it not do? And what does it do? And that is going to allow your playing, even particular pieces, to be much more comfortable, because you're not just thinking about, I'm going to play this note, and then this note, and then this note, and then back to this note, and then down one, and then up, and then back to the first note. You're not thinking about that. You're just listening to it, and you already kind of intuitively know what it's going to sound like. The more you play it, the more familiar you're going to get with it without having to think so much, but just, you know it in your body, and you also know it in your ear. You're just going to be able to hear it much more simply. Okay. Maybe the last thing, I need to check my notes. Maybe the last thing I want to touch on that I think will be helpful is playing with two hands. This seems to be something that people are really interested in, and because of that, maybe it'd be a good idea to spend a little bit of time on that. So again, my background is in piano, and so for me, when I picked up the lyre a couple of years ago, my coordination between left and right hand was already there. And so if this is the first instrument you're playing, just be patient with yourself. It takes time for our body to learn to sort of obey what we're telling it to do. And that can be frustrating. I totally get that. But I would encourage you just to be patient, and again, to delight and wonder in the little things that you can do. The second thing, and I'll illustrate this a little bit more concretely in a moment, the next thing I would suggest is to spend time playing with both hands more than separate. There's definitely space for both, but I would really encourage a lot of time with both hands, even if it's really, really simple. The only analogy I can think of is like if you're learning to ballroom dance. Yes, you need to know what you yourself are doing, but the whole point is for the two people to dance together, just like with the lyre. The whole point is for both hands to dance together. And so even though, the right hand is maybe going to have more movements than the left hand, you want them to learn how to work together, because what ends up happening is, for me, right, the left hand supports the right hand a lot, and the right hand sings sort of with and for the left hand, but they belong together. And so even rhythmically, it would be much more difficult for me to play the right hand without the left hand, because the left hand is holding that steady tempo. It's holding that both the tempo, and it actually sets the key that particular note is in, rather, right? That's going to set a particular, that's the key of D. But if I were to move the left hand, all of a sudden we're in minor. So the left hand both holds tempo and key. That sort of communicates to my right hand when to play and what to play. Now I'm not thinking about this. It's just time that I've spent with the lyre itself. So maybe you're at a point where you can't play 4 notes, right, real quick with your left hand. Totally fine. I would encourage you, even if you just play 2 notes, and then try and add a right hand in there. Right? And that's just, I just made that up, right? That's just playing with it. And you'll hear notes that you're like, oh, that didn't sound very good. Well, you're still learning. You're learning, okay, that didn't go together. And And this is not just if you want to write your own music, certainly it applies to that, but it's just knowing what do these notes sound like together. And it really makes a big difference in how you just see the lyre. You're either going to see it as this is where I need to place my hands, or you're going to see it as a kind of wealth of opportunity to play all sorts of different things. That's probably the best way I can explain it. One's very narrow, one's very expansive. So I would really encourage just that play. And also, change the left hand. If we'll go to the relative minor key, same thing. Sorry, it's really out of tune. Okay, so we'll try more than just one finger. Oops. So I would really encourage just something simple like that, or even if it's just one note, just play that one note in the left hand and one note in the right hand, something to help teach your body, your ear, your mind that these two hands go together. When one plays, the other plays. When the other plays, the other plays. I think I said other twice. When one plays, the other plays, and vice versa. But that is something I would really encourage. What would be different if you didn't do that would be you're learning the right hand and then you learn the left hand and then you try and put them together, but what you have spent so much time doing is not what you actually want to end up doing. So it's kind of contradictory to itself, because when you're playing just the right hand, all you're thinking about is the right hand. When you're playing the left hand, same thing. When you play both, you have to think about both of them, but a little bit differently. So some take a back seat in regards to muscle memory. Others play are kind of more in the front, where you're focusing a little bit more on the direction you want to go, and that's usually going to be in the right hand because it's a little bit more active with the melody. Okay, so again, trying to practice them together, and then after you're done doing something like that, I would encourage you to try and move that left hand. A good way to do that would be if you start on a major. This is tuned to the key of D. I'm sorry, I didn't say that. Which has two sharps and two flats. So don't take the specific strings that I'm playing. You'd have to reference that to the particular scale that you're in. But I'm in D right now, right? And then if you just move one string down on both fingers, you'll get a minor sound. Okay? If you start in the minor, down here, you move one down, you'll get major. So that's something that we'll do the minor and then and move to the major, and we'll see how this goes. And try just playing around with it. Ooh. You get the idea. So those are the two things maybe that I would recommend. Real simple in the left hand, and then if you want to get more complicated with the left hand, something like, it's a different time signature, but oops. Okay, that's a left hand that I use often in my pieces. And then the last, which would be the fastest, at least in regards to what I can think of, would be this would be more in 3/4, 6/8 time. Oops. Okay. And you'll notice that I didn't move my left hand at all, and it worked just fine. To move your left hand really just accents the different key that you're switching to. And it sounds a little bit like the two pieces kind of fit. They sort of like that final click, that they kind of go together. But for these purposes, I would keep your left hand in the same place as you're trying to build up complexity in that left hand, and then try and move it around. But again, spend most of your time with those two hands together. Let me check my notes, see if there's anything else I wanted to say that I thought would be of help. This is now rather random, but I also just saw this. If you're totally new to the lyre, this is a super basic thing, but it's super important. So the tuning on the lyre, I have found, first of all, just extremely touchy. Sometimes I will have this on here, and I will literally just like give it a little bit of a bump, and that's what it needs. Definitely don't crank it in one way or the other. You're gonna either break the string, or just throw it so out of tune you don't even know what you're trying to go for anymore. So it's very, very sensitive. Super basic on tuning. If you take it, I'm not going to turn it because I'm going to throw my strings way out. If you go clockwise, so if you spin it this direction, if I turn it this way, it's going to go up in pitch, which is either going to make it sharp. If the note is flat and you want it to go up, you'll go clockwise. This is also if you want to change keys and you want to go from an F to an F sharp. This is an A, an A to an A sharp. You're going to go clockwise. You want to bring that note up. If you want to go from an A to an A flat, you want it to go down, you're going to go counterclockwise and go up this direction, okay? This should come with your lyre. It's one that came with mine. Just be patient with the tuning. I didn't actually even tune this for this video. It was tuned yesterday. So actually that gives you a good sense. Hopefully you can hear it. That was one other thing I wanted to say. Okay. But yeah, so you can hear when I don't tune it again. If you heard while I was kind of noodling around there, either it was a wrong note or the tuning was a little bit off on the notes, just kind of irks you a little bit. That's because I tuned it yesterday and it went out of tune already. So it just kind of shows you the limitations of this literally particular instrument, not necessarily the lyre itself. It's just, the sort of quality of it. The last thing that I want to say, and I'm sure I'm still forgetting something, but that's all right, is what it is that the sound that you are hearing on these videos, today I have a mic probably 2 feet from the lyre. Usually you'll see it in some of my videos, now more than the earlier ones. The mic is as close as I can get it without knocking it, because this is a very quiet instrument and it's real tough to record. So what you are hearing on the recordings is the best effort I'm able to do to get the sound that you hear in real life actually communicated and loud enough on those recordings. The problem is that if I were to just turn the volume up, you'd hear the lyre, but you would also hear a ton of white noise, and it would be quite obnoxious and really hard to hear the lyre itself. And so what I do is I add both reverb and compression to it. Now it does, it sounds as quite close to how it does in real life, just much louder. The reverb is to help fill out what sounds kind of pingy without it. Now on this recording I haven't added anything because I'm talking. You also may be able to tell the difference between just a normal talking voice and how I'm playing it, just how quiet it actually is. So if that's a question for you, just know that those are the two things that I do. Certainly if you want to record, those two things have kind of worked pretty well as far as I can tell. But that is what you're hearing. It's a very soft instrument, which I think is really beautiful. I love the delicacy and the simplicity of the lyre. I love something different about the different instruments that I play, but definitely the delicacy, which is communicated through that quietness, and also the directness of, unlike a piano, right, where the hammer is what hits. I hit the key, and the key, triggers the hammer that hits the string. On a lot of them, I can't even see the string. But here, it is my finger who's actually, that was really loud, touching the string and pulling it. So that's something that I really like about it. Anyways, okay, I think that's everything that I can think of. Yeah. Okay. Of course, if you have any questions or if there's anything that you would find helpful, you're welcome to send me an email or put in the comments. I can't. It's a little bit of a strange thing to teach in this way. I've taught before, but definitely not where someone can't just ask a question, and certainly not simply through the means of a camera. I'm grateful to be able to do it for those who want to be able to play the lyre. And like I said, I'm going to be doing a walkthrough of Whispers of Beauty sometime in the near future that I really hope is helpful for folks, especially those who maybe can't read sheet music. It will help you in that. But anyways, I hope this is helpful. I can't get to everything in regards to the specifics of every particular person, so it really is something that is meant for a more general audience. But if there's something that you have a question about, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'll answer it as best as I can, and share what's been given to me. So I hope this is helpful for those who are watching and who said that this would be something that would be a good thing. I'll look at maybe some other links, not for other instruments. I'll do that a little bit later. But if there's some additional lyre ones, I'll include the ones that I put in the first video. But anyways, if there's other resources, I'll certainly put that in there, just as a way to include all things that are helpful for you. Okay, I guess we'll end with that. God bless you, and have a wonderful, whether it's day or evening, whatever that is for you. I hope all is well, and thank you all for your support. I'm thrilled that it is a gift for one person and more. It really is very touching and very humbling. So I'm super grateful to be able to share the gift, and that it really is a gift to others as well. So a big thanks for those who voice that, and also for your own reception of that. I hope this helps you just enter into that more deeply and reach out if I can be of help. All right. Thank you so much.